The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened slowly. Ji-won walked forward with careful steps. Her heart was beating fast, but her face showed no fear. She wore the formal uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, dark blue with silver stars on the shoulders. Behind her walked Admiral Taeyang in his military dress and Dr. Hieran carrying a data tablet with all of Earth's scientific records. The chamber was huge. The ceiling stretched so high that Ji-won could barely see the top. All around them sat representatives from 200 different alien species. Some looked like giant insects with clicking mandibles. Others were balls of glowing light that floated in the air. There were creatures with scales, creatures with tentacles, and beings that looked like living stone. Every eye, sensor, and awareness was focused on the three humans standing in the center. Ji-won had practiced her speech 1,000 times. She knew every word by heart. But standing here in front of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, her mouth felt dry. She touched the small communication device on her wrist. Back on Earth, billions of people were watching this moment. Everything depended on what happened here today. High Chancellor Vexthar sat on the highest platform. He was a Draxith, one of the oldest species in the Council. His body was covered in dark red scales, and his eyes were yellow with vertical pupils like a snake. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the entire chamber. "Humans of Earth, you may present your petition." Ji-won stepped forward. She activated the holographic display, and images of Earth appeared in the air above her. Beautiful oceans, green forests, cities with millions of people. Then the images changed. They showed the Vorthak swarm. The bioships looked like diseased organs, pulsing and wet. They moved through space in massive clouds, consuming everything in their path. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council," Ji-won began. Her voice was steady now. "Humanity comes before you today to ask for help. 3 months ago, our outer colonies detected the Vorthak swarm entering our space. We have studied your records. We know this species has destroyed 17 civilizations in the past century. We are not warriors. We are scientists, artists, farmers, and dreamers. We cannot fight the swarm alone." She paused, looking at the alien faces around her. Some seemed interested. Most seemed bored. "We ask for 3 things. First, we ask to join the Galactic Council as a protected member species. Second, we ask for defensive technology to protect our worlds. Third, we ask for military support until we can build our own defenses. In return, we offer everything we have: our science, our culture, our loyalty to the Council's laws." The silence that followed was heavy. Ji-won could hear her own breathing. She could hear Taeyang shifting his weight behind her. Then slowly, sounds began to fill the chamber. Clicks, buzzes, strange musical notes. It took Ji-won a moment to understand. They were laughing. High Chancellor Vexthar leaned forward. His mouth opened, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Humanity, you are children. Infants playing with fire. You have been in space for how long? 200 years? We have civilizations here that have traveled the stars for 50,000 years." A creature made of blue light spoke next. Its voice sounded like wind chimes. "You still fight wars among yourselves. We have detected 37 armed conflicts on your planet in the last decade alone. You want us to give weapons to a species that cannot even maintain peace on a single world?" Another voice, this one deep and rumbling like an earthquake. "You ask for our protection because you face danger? Every species faces danger. It is the test of worthiness. If you cannot survive the Vorthak, then you do not deserve to survive at all." Ji-won felt heat rising in her chest. Anger. But she forced it down. She had to stay calm. "With respect, honored council members, we have done everything required of us. We ended our world wars. We unified our governments. We reached the stars peacefully. We have followed every guideline in the Council's charter for new species." Vexithar made a dismissive gesture with his clawed hand. "Guidelines, yes, you followed the basic requirements. A child learns to walk before it runs. Should we give that child a starship? You humans are too emotional, too impulsive, too violent in your nature. You may have stopped fighting each other, but only because you had to in order to reach space. Give you weapons and you will use them not just on the Vorthak, but on each other. Or on us." Dr. Hieran stepped forward. She was shaking with anger. "Our data shows the Vorthak will reach Earth in 6 months. 6 months? You would condemn 8 billion people to death because we are young? Because we are emotional? What kind of civilization does that make you?" The chamber erupted in noise again. Not laughter this time. Anger. A massive insectoid being stood up, its voice clicking rapidly. You dare question the council? You dare speak to us with such disrespect? This is exactly what we mean. You are too young, too primitive, too undisciplined. Admiral Taeyang put his hand on Hyeren's shoulder, pulling her back gently. He stepped forward and addressed the council. His voice was hard as steel. We are not asking for charity. We are willing to pay, to work, to earn our place. Just give us a chance. Vexthar stood up. He was massive, towering over them even from his distant platform. Here is your chance, humans. Go home, face the Vorthak. If you survive, come back in 10,000 years. If you prove you can endure without destroying yourselves, if you prove you can mature beyond your violent nature, then we will consider your membership. Until then, you are not ready for this council. He raised his hand and the holographic images of Earth disappeared. Every species must face the crucible, the test that proves their worth. For you, it is the Vorthak. Survive and earn your place. Fail and... He paused, his yellow eyes cold. The galaxy is vast. It will not miss one more failed species. The massive doors began to open behind them. The meeting was over. Ji-won stood frozen for a moment. 8 billion lives, dismissed, abandoned, sentenced to death by bureaucracy and ancient pride. She turned slowly and walked toward the doors. Taeyang and Hyerin followed. As they walked through the chamber, Ji-won could hear the council members already moving on to other business. To them, Earth's extinction was just another item on a long agenda. The walk back to their ship felt like walking through a dream. Or a nightmare. None of them spoke until they were inside, until the doors sealed behind them and they were alone in the sterile white corridor. Taeyang's hands were shaking. He pressed them against the wall, his whole body tense. They don't care. They literally do not care if we all die. Hyerin was crying silently, tears running down her face. 8 billion people. My family, your families, everyone we know. And they laughed. Ji-won walked to the window and looked out at the council station. It was beautiful, made of crystal and light, orbiting a neutron star like a jewel. Behind it, the galaxy stretched out in all directions. Trillions of stars, billions of worlds, and somewhere out there the Vorthak swarm was coming. She pressed her hand against the cold glass. Her reflection stared back at her. In her eyes, something had changed. The hope she had carried into that chamber was gone. In its place was something harder, something that would not bend or break. Then we do it ourselves, she said quietly. Taeyang looked at her. Do what ourselves? Ji-won turned to face them. Her voice was calm, but underneath it was steel. Everything. We survive. We fight, we win. Without their help. Without their technology. Without their permission. She looked back at the council station. And when we do, we come back here. Not as children begging for scraps, but as equals demanding respect. The ship's engines hummed to life. As they pulled away from the station, Ji-won made herself a promise. The galaxy had abandoned humanity. Fine, humanity would save itself. And when the council finally recognized their mistake, it would be too late to take credit for what humans would become. The stars blurred as they jumped to faster than light speed. They were going home. Home to Earth. Home to deliver the news that would change everything. The Galactic Council had made their decision. Now humanity would make theirs. 3 months had passed since Earth's rejection at the Galactic Council. 3 months of preparation, of building, of desperate work. But it was not enough. It could never be enough. Admiral Taeyang stood on the bridge of the Soul's Pride, his flagship. Through the window he could see Mars hanging in space, red and beautiful. On its surface, in the sealed domes, 50,000 people lived and worked in Mars Colony 7. Below him, on the tactical display, he could see his fleet. 12 warships. 40 fighters! Orbital defense platforms that had been designed to fight human pirates, not alien monsters. Admiral, his communications officer said. Her name was Yoonji and her voice was shaking. Long-range sensors are detecting multiple contacts. Thousands of them. Maybe tens of thousands. Taeyang nodded slowly. He had known this moment was coming. They all had. Sound the evacuation alarm. Get every civilian transport loaded and ready to jump to light speed. We need to buy them time. The alarm began to wail across all frequencies. On Mars, people would be running now, grabbing their children, their pets, whatever they could carry, racing toward the transport ships. There were 30 transports. Each could carry 2,000 people. If they all got away, most of the colony would survive. If. They're entering visual range, the sensor officer said. Taeyang looked up. At first he saw nothing but stars. Then the stars began to disappear, not because they were going out, but because something was blocking them, something massive. The Vorthak swarm appeared like a disease spreading across space. The ships were not made of metal or plastic. They were organic, living things bred for war. Each one looked like a giant organ pulsing and wet, covered in what might have been veins or might have been weapons. They moved in perfect coordination, thousands of ships flying as one massive organism. Taeyang had fought in wars. He had seen death, but this was different. This was not an enemy you could negotiate with or understand. This was hunger given form. This was extinction with a face. Count? He asked quietly. The sensor officer's voice was barely a whisper. Over 80,000 bioships, sir. And that is just the first wave. 80,000 ships against 12. The mathematics were simple. The outcome was certain. All ships, Taeyang said into the fleet-wide channel. His voice was calm. He had learned long ago that soldiers needed their commander to sound confident, even when facing death. This is Admiral Taeyang. We all know what we are facing. We all know the odds. Our job is not to win. Our job is to buy time. Every minute we hold them here is another transport that gets away. Every second is another life saved. He paused, looking at the faces of his bridge crew. Young and old. Men and women. They all looked scared. Good. Fear kept you sharp. We are the United Earth Defense Force. Today, we show the galaxy what humans are made of. All ships attack Formation Delta. Target their forward elements. Make them pay for every meter of space. The Soul's Pride surged forward and 11 other ships followed. They were small compared to the Vorthak swarm. They were tiny lights approaching a hurricane. But they did not hesitate. The first wave of Vorthak ships met them with biological weapons. Streams of acid that could melt through ship armor. Swarms of smaller organisms that attached to hulls and began eating through them. Clouds of spores that would infect any organic matter they touched. Taeyang's fleet responded with nuclear missiles, railguns, and laser batteries. The first volley killed hundreds of Vorthak ships. They burst like rotten fruit, spraying organic matter across space. But for every one that died, 10 more took its place. Transport Fleet 1 has jumped to light speed, Yunji reported. 5,000 people away. Good, Taeyang said. All ships fall back to the orbital defense platforms. Use the gravity well of Mars, make them come to us. The fleet retreated in good order, firing constantly. The Vorthak followed like a swarm of angry insects. They reached the orbital platforms, massive stations bristling with weapons. For a few glorious minutes, the combined firepower held the swarm back. Thousands of bioships died in nuclear fire, but there were always more. We have lost the Busan runner, the tactical officer reported. The Vorthak are boarding her. The captain has activated self-destruct. Taeyang watched on his screen as the Busan runner, a destroyer that had served Earth for 20 years, exploded in a ball of white fire. The explosion took out dozens of nearby Vorthak ships. A good death. A warrior's death. Transport Fleet 2 away, Yunji said. Another 6,000 evacuated. The battle continued. Hours passed. One by one, Earth's ships died. The Daejeon Lance rammed a Vorthak carrier, buying the transport's precious minutes. The Gwangju Defender held off a flanking attack until her ammunition ran out, then used her last fuel to crash into a cluster of bioships. Admiral Taeyang watched his fleet die. Each captain was a friend. Each crew was people he had trained, people he had shared meals with. But he did not look away. He owed them that much. Sir, the tactical officer said, we have enemy ships breaking through on the lower quadrant. They are heading for the last transport group. Taeyang looked at the display. 10 transport ships still loading civilians. They needed 5 more minutes to get everyone aboard and jump away. The Vorthak would reach them in 3. Only one ship was close enough to intercept. The Soul's Pride Taeyang did not hesitate. All power to engines. Intercept course. Weapons arm all nuclear warheads. Sir, Yunji said quietly. If we do this, we will not be able to escape the blast radius. Taeyang smiled. It was a sad smile, but genuine. I know, all hands, this is the Admiral. Evacuate to the escape pods. You have 2 minutes. Sir, we are not leaving you, his executive officer said. That is an order, Commander. With respect, Admiral, no. We all knew what we signed up for. We all knew this day might come. If you are staying, we are staying. Around the bridge, every officer nodded. No one moved toward the escape pods. Taeyang felt his eyes burn with tears. He was proud of them, proud to serve with them, proud to die with them. Very well, he said. Then let us make this count. For Earth, for humanity. For humanity, they all repeated. The soul's pride accelerated directly into the heart of the Vorthak formation. Every weapon fired at once. Missiles streaked out in all directions. Railgun rounds punched through bioship after bioship. The laser batteries fired until they overheated and shut down. The Vorthak swarmed them. Acid burned through the hull. The ship shook as organisms attached and began eating through the armor. Alert screamed across every console. Fire broke out in 3 decks. Transport Fleet 3 away, Yunji said, her voice calm despite the chaos. 48,000 people saved. 2,000 didn't make it, the tactical officer said quietly. Taeyang nodded. 2,000 dead, 48,000 alive. The mathematics of war. Detonate all nuclear warheads, he ordered. Warheads armed and ready. Sir. Taeyang took one last look at Mars. Beautiful red Mars, where humans had built homes and farms and dreams. The Vorthak would consume it now. Consume the domes, the cities, everything. But they would not get the people. It has been an honor serving with you all, he said. He pressed the detonation button. The soul's pride became a miniature sun. The nuclear explosion vaporized thousands of Vorthak ships instantly. The shockwave tore through the swarm, disrupting their formation, buying the transports those final crucial seconds. When the light faded, Mars Colony 7 was gone. The orbital platforms were gone. Earth's defensive fleet was gone. The Vorthak had won the battle, but 48,000 humans had escaped. 48,000 witnesses who would tell the story of how Admiral Taeyang and his fleet held back the darkness long enough for them to reach safety. The footage of the battle reached Earth within hours. People watched in their homes, in their workplaces, in public squares. They watched their brave defenders die. They watched the swarm consume Mars. President Doyon addressed the planet that night. His face was grim but determined. Today we lost Mars. Today we lost Admiral Taeyang and thousands of brave soldiers. But today we also learned something important. We learned that we can hurt them. We learned that we can fight them. And most importantly, we learned that they can be beaten. He paused, letting the words sink in. The Galactic Council abandoned us. They said we were too young, too primitive, too emotional to deserve their help. Fine. We will help ourselves. Effective immediately, I am activating Protocol Exodus. Every factory will produce weapons. Every scientist will focus on defense. Every resource will be dedicated to one goal, survival. His eyes were hard as diamonds. The Vorthak think we are prey. The Council thinks we are children. We will prove them both wrong. Humanity will survive. And when we do, the galaxy will remember the species that faced extinction and refused to die. 2 years had passed since the Battle of Mars. Earth had changed. The planet that once had green parks and peaceful cities now looked like a fortress. Every major city had weapons factories running day and night. The sky was always lit with the trails of supply ships moving between Earth and the new orbital stations. In her laboratory deep beneath the Swiss Alps, Dr. Hiron stared at the sample under her microscope. It was a piece of Vorthak biomatter, recovered from Mars before the colony fell. She had been studying it for 18 months, studying how it moved, how it communicated, how it lived, and finally she had found its weakness. The hive mind, she said to her assistant, a young scientist named Boyoung. That is the key. Every Vorthak ship is not really a ship. It is part of one giant organism. They communicate through quantum frequencies. If we can disrupt that frequency, she tapped a command into her computer and a simulation played on the screen. A wave of energy spread through the Vorthak network. Ship after ship went dark, their connection to the hive severed. They die, Boyoung said, watching the simulation with wide eyes. Not die. Shut down, they become inert, useless. Hiron sat back in her chair. The problem is building a weapon powerful enough to generate this disruption field. We need technology we do not have. The Council technology, Boyoung said quietly. Yes. The technology they refuse to give us. Hiron looked at the Vorthak sample again. So we build it ourselves. Across the world in a military facility in South Korea, Captain Minho stood in a sterile white room. He was surrounded by doctors and scientists, all looking at him with a mixture of hope and fear. "Are you certain you want to do this?" the lead doctor asked. Her name was Sarang, and she had been studying human enhancement for 30 years. "The procedure is experimental. The success rate is only 60%. If it fails, you could die. If it succeeds, you will never be fully human again." Minho looked at her calmly. He was a special operations soldier, trained for the hardest missions. He had seen the footage from Mars. He had watched Admiral Taiyang and his fleet die to save civilians. If humanity needed soldiers who could fight the Vorthak on equal terms, then he would become that soldier. "I am certain," he said. "Do it." The procedure took 8 hours. They injected nanomachines into his bloodstream. They implanted computer chips into his brain. They replaced his bones with a stronger material. They enhanced his muscles, his reflexes, his senses. When Minho woke up 3 days later, he was different. His eyes could see in complete darkness. His ears could hear conversations from across a room. His muscles responded faster than thought. When he touched his wrist, a holographic display appeared, showing his vital signs and connecting him to the military network. He stood up from the medical bed. The movement was strange. He felt stronger, faster, more. A nurse brought him a mirror. He looked at his reflection. His eyes now had a faint golden glow from the computer implants. There were thin lines of silver beneath his skin where the nanomachines had reinforced his body. "How do you feel?" Dr. Sarang asked. Minho flexed his hands, feeling the power in them. "I feel ready." Captain Minho became the first of the augmented. Within 6 months, 300 more soldiers volunteered for the procedure. They became humanity's elite fighting force, soldiers who could survive in hard vacuum for short periods, who could process information faster than any normal human, who could fight with strength and speed that matched the Vorthak's biological advantages. In Earth's orbital shipyards, Engineer Soman was designing something new. She had studied the wreckage of the ships lost at Mars. She had analyzed how the Vorthak fought, and she had realized something important. Defense was useless against them. They would always have more ships. They would always swarm and overwhelm any defense. So she designed ships that had no defense at all. The Hellfire-class vessels were small, fast, and packed with weapons. They had minimal armor, no shield generators, and just enough life support to keep the crew alive for a single mission. But their offensive power was massive. Nuclear missiles, plasma cannons, rail guns that could punch through a Vorthak carrier. They were suicide ships and everyone knew it. "Who is going to pilot these?" her supervisor asked, looking at the designs with concern. "Volunteers," Soman said quietly. "There are always volunteers," she was right. Thousands of people applied to pilot the Hellfire ships. They were civilians who had lost families to the Vorthak. They were soldiers who wanted revenge for Mars. They were young people who saw no future if humanity lost this war. President Doyen visited the first completed Hellfire squadron before they launched. He walked down the line of ships, looking at each one. They were painted with names. Soul's Revenge, Mars Memorial, Never Again, Last Stand. He stopped in front of a young pilot named Ji-hoon. The boy could not have been older than 20. "Why are you doing this?" Doyen asked. Ji-hoon smiled. It was a sad smile. "My family was on Mars, sir. My parents, my little sister. I was on Earth studying when the Vorthak came. Admiral Taiyang saved thousands of people, but he could not save everyone. He could not save my family." The young man looked at his ship. "If I can kill even one Vorthak ship, maybe I can help make sure another family does not have to go through what mine did." Doyen put his hand on the boy's shoulder. There were no words that could make this better. So he just nodded and moved on. Dr. Hiran's breakthrough came 18 months after Mars. She had built the prototype in secret, afraid to hope it would work. It was called the resonance cannon, a weapon that broadcast the quantum disruption frequency in a focused beam. The test was conducted on a captured Vorthak bioship. The ship was alive, writhing in its containment field. Hiran activated the cannon. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Vorthak ship simply stopped. It hung motionless in space, all of its organic systems shut down. "It works," Boyoung said, her voice filled with wonder. Hiran felt tears running down her face. 2 years of work. 2 years of hoping. "It works," she repeated. The Vorthak returned to Earth's solar system exactly 2 years after the Battle of Mars. They came with a fleet of 200,000 bioships. expecting to find a broken, desperate humanity ready to be consumed. Instead, they found hell. The first wave hit the outer defenses at the Kuiper Belt. Automated mines, each containing a small nuclear warhead, activated as the Vorthak approached. The explosions lit up space like a field of deadly stars. Thousands of bioships died in the first minutes. The swarm pressed forward. They had lost ships before. They would lose more. But their numbers were endless. At Neptune, they encountered the Hellfire squadrons. 300 ships, each piloted by a volunteer with nothing to lose and everything to prove. The Hellfire ships swarmed the Vorthak like angry wasps. They were fast, aggressive, and deadly. When their weapons ran out, they rammed into Vorthak carriers, their nuclear cores exploding and taking dozens of bioships with them. Ji-hoon flew his ship, Soul's Revenge, directly into the heart of the Vorthak formation. His targeting computer showed 23 confirmed kills. He was out of missiles now. Out of ammunition, but not out of options. For Mars, he said quietly. For my family. He set his ship to collision course with a massive Vorthak command carrier and armed the self-destruct. The last thing he saw was a wall of organic matter rushing toward him. Then white light, then nothing. At Jupiter, Captain Minho led boarding parties onto Vorthak carriers. His augmented soldiers moved through the organic corridors like ghosts, planting explosives and cutting through Vorthak warriors with plasma weapons. They moved faster than the bioships could respond, struck hard and disappeared before reinforcements arrived. Minho's armor was covered in alien blood. His system showed he had been fighting for 6 hours straight without rest. His body, enhanced by the nanomachines, kept going when any normal human would have collapsed from exhaustion. All charges planted, one of his soldiers reported. 30 seconds to detonation. Move, Minho ordered. His team ran through the twisting corridors of the bioship, racing toward their extraction point. They reached the airlock just as the explosives went off. The entire carrier shuddered and began tearing itself apart from the inside. Back on Earth, in an orbital station above the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Hiren watched the battle on her tactical display. The Vorthak fleet had been reduced to about 150,000 ships. Still too many. Still enough to overwhelm Earth's defenses. Fire the resonance cannon, she said. The weapon was massive, built into the largest station humanity had ever constructed. It drew power from 6 fusion reactors. When it fired, the entire station shook. A beam of invisible energy lanced out across space. It hit the leading edge of the Vorthak swarm and those ships simply stopped. They drifted, dead in space, their connection to the hive mind severed. The disruption spread like a wave, jumping from ship to ship through the quantum links that connected them. Within minutes, 50,000 Vorthak ships were disabled. 50,000 living weapons turned into floating corpses. The remaining Vorthak fleet broke apart. For the first time in the battle, they seemed confused. They had never encountered anything that could shut down their hive mind. They did not know how to function as individuals. Earth's defense forces pressed the advantage. Ships that had been holding back now surged forward. The Hellfire squadrons that were still alive attacked with renewed fury. Mingo. 5 years had passed since humanity defeated the Vorthak at Earth. 5 years of change, of growth, of expansion. The species that had barely survived was now thriving, and the galaxy was starting to notice. General Minho stood on the bridge of his command ship, looking down at the planet below. It was called Vega Prime, and it had once been home to a civilization of 3 billion people. Then the Vorthak came. Now it was empty except for the ruins and the bones. Another dead world, his second-in-command said. Her name was Isul, also one of the augmented. That makes 60 worlds we have found like this. 60 worlds the Vorthak destroyed, Minho said. 60 worlds that the Galactic Council did nothing to save. He turned away from the window. Begin landing operations. This planet has good soil and water. It can support human life again. Within weeks, the first human colonists arrived on Vega Prime. They were farmers, engineers, teachers, families looking for a new start. But they were also soldiers. Every colonist was trained in combat. Every settlement had weapons and defenses. Humanity had learned its lesson. They would never be helpless again. Engineer Soman had moved far beyond just building weapons. She had been studying the Vorthak bioships they had captured, trying to understand how organic technology worked. Now in a secret facility orbiting Neptune, she was combining Vorthak biology with human engineering. It is alive, her assistant Changmin said. looking at the prototype vessel with fear and wonder. The ship did look alive. Its hull was made of a synthetic organic material that could heal damage by itself. Its engines were a hybrid of human fusion technology and Vorthak bioenergy. It could think after a fashion, responding to its pilot's thoughts through a neural interface. "It is the future," Salman said. "The Vorthak showed us that organic technology has advantages. Why should we ignore that? We take their strengths and combine them with our own. Make something new, something better." The hybrid ships were faster than anything humanity had built before. They required less maintenance because they could repair themselves, and they were bonded to their pilots in a way that made them incredibly responsive. Dr. Hyeron had also been busy. The resonance cannon had proven that disrupting quantum frequencies could disable the Vorthak. But she had taken the technology further. She had built communication systems that used the same principles, allowing instant contact across light years of space. She sat in her laboratory on Earth, speaking with a research team on Vega Prime, 60 light years away. There was no delay, no waiting for signals to travel through space. They might as well have been in the same room. "This changes everything," Hyeron told President Doyen when she demonstrated the technology. "The Galactic Council controls faster than light communication. They charge species for access to it. They use it as leverage, as control. We just broke their monopoly." Doyen understood immediately. "If we can communicate instantly across our colonies, we can coordinate better than anyone else. We can respond to threats faster. We can grow faster." "Exactly," Hyeron said. "And we can share this technology with species who want to be free of the Council's control." That was when everything changed. The Galactic Council had been watching humanity's expansion with growing concern. At first they had been amused. The young species was playing at being powerful. But as the years passed and humanity kept growing, kept conquering the old Vorthak space, kept developing new technologies, the amusement turned to worry. High Chancellor Vexthar was no longer in power. He had been removed after the military humiliation of predicting humanity's extinction. The new Chancellor was named Thelsar, a being of pure energy from the Lumini species. Thelsar was more practical than Vexthar, and that made them more dangerous. "The humans must be contained," Thelsar said to the Council. "They control 60 star systems now. They have fleets we cannot match in that region of space. And worst of all, they are talking to other species that we have relationships with." What Thelsar did not say out loud was that many of those relationships were not friendly. The Council maintained order through economic control and military threats. There were dozens of species who resented the Council but were too weak to resist. Until now. Ambassador Jiwan, who had been promoted to Secretary General of Earth's Diplomatic Corps, received the first contact from the Krellin Empire. The Krellin were a warrior species, similar to Earth's ancient Viking cultures. They were strong, honorable, and proud. The Council had denied them full membership because they were too aggressive. The Krellin ambassador was named Borkan. He looked like a humanoid bear covered in dark fur, with muscles that could crush steel. He met Jiwan on a neutral station between their territories. "My people have watched what humans did to the Vorthak," Borkan said. His voice was deep and rumbling. "We were impressed. The Council told us you would fail. They told us you were too weak. They were wrong." "They were," Jiwan agreed carefully. "The Council treats my people like children, like barbarians. They give us rules and restrictions. They tell us how many ships we can build, how many worlds we can settle, all because they fear us." Borkan leaned forward. "But they do not fear you. Not yet, soon they will. When they do, they will try to destroy you." "Are you warning us or threatening us?" Jiwan asked. Borkan laughed. It was a genuine sound of amusement. "Warning. My people respect strength. You have proven your strength. So I ask, when the Council comes for you, will you fight alone, or will you accept allies?" That conversation led to more. The Sisiri, a peaceful trading species, reached out because they were tired of the Council's economic exploitation. The Junta, silicon-based life forms, made contact because the Council refused to recognize them as truly alive. Dozens of species, all with grievances, all looking for an alternative. Within 3 years, the Free Worlds Coalition was formed. 40 member species, 70 star systems, and growing. General Minho trained the Coalition's military forces, teaching them human tactics, fast strikes, adaptability. using every advantage. The Coalition forces combined Krellin warriors, human augmented soldiers, Siciri support ships, and Junta electronic warfare specialists into a force that worked together seamlessly. Engineer Soman built shipyards in Coalition space. Soon, hybrid bioships were being produced not just for humans, but for all Coalition members. Each species added their own improvements, their own innovations. Dr. Hiren shared the quantum communication technology freely. The Coalition now had an advantage the Council could not match. Perfect coordination across all their territories. The Galactic Council finally acted. They declared the Coalition illegal. They imposed sanctions. No Council species could trade with Coalition members. Any Coalition ship found in Council space would be seized. It was economic warfare, meant to strangle the Coalition before it grew too strong. President Doyun addressed the Coalition Council in a speech that was broadcast across 60 star systems. The Galactic Council thinks they can control us through fear and isolation. They think we will come crawling back, begging for their markets and their permission. They are wrong. We have everything we need right here. We have each other. The Coalition not only survived the sanctions, it thrived. Without Council regulations, trade between Coalition species boomed. Without Council restrictions, scientific cooperation led to breakthroughs no single species could have achieved alone. The tension finally broke when a Council enforcement fleet tried to blockade a human colony in disputed space. The Council sent 200 warships, expecting the humans to back down. They met General Minho's Third Fleet instead, 100 Coalition vessels, a mix of human ships, Krellin battlecruisers, and Siciri carriers. The battle lasted 4 hours. The Council fleet retreated with heavy losses. No Coalition ships were destroyed. The footage spread across the galaxy within days. The Council was not invincible. The old order could be challenged. More species began questioning their loyalty to the Council. Jiwan watched the political situation carefully. She had been in meetings with Council representatives, listening to their threats and demands. She knew what was coming. They will not stop, she told President Doyen. The Council cannot accept that we exist. We are proof that their system is not the only way. Every day we survive is a challenge to their authority. So what do? Doyen asked. We prepare for war, Jiwan said. A real war. Not a skirmish. Not a blockade. The Council has thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. If they decide to crush us, they will throw everything at us. Doyen looked tired. He had been president for 7 years now. 7 years of constant crisis. After everything we have been through, everything we have built, it comes down to war again. It always does, Jiwan said sadly. That is what the Council does not understand about humanity. We do not want war. We want peace. But when someone threatens our survival, we fight, and we do not stop fighting until we win or until we are dead. General Minho began preparing the Coalition military for total war. Every species contributed. The Krellin provided warriors. The Siciri provided support and logistics. The Junta provided intelligence and electronic warfare capabilities. Humanity provided leadership, tactics, and the augmented soldiers who could fight anywhere, against anyone. Engineer Somindis. The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened for the second time in 10 years. Once again, humans walked through. But everything was different now. Ambassador Jiwan entered first, wearing not the hopeful diplomat's uniform she had worn before, but the formal dress of the Free World's Coalition. Behind her walked 47 representatives from Coalition species. General Minho in his military armor, his augmented enhancements visible through the gaps. Dr. Hiren carrying data tablets with evidence that would change everything, and representatives from the Krellin, the Siciri, the Junta, and dozens of others. The council chamber was silent. No laughter this time. No mocking. Just tension. Chancellor Thelzar floated in the center of the room, a being of pure light energy. When they spoke, their voice echoed from all directions at once. Humanity, you return to us with an army at your back. Is this how you ask for membership? With threats? Jiwon stepped forward. Her voice was calm but hard as steel. We are not here to ask for membership. We are here to offer you a choice. Listen to what we have found, or condemn every species in this galaxy to extinction. Murmurs filled the chamber. Species clicked, buzzed, and hummed in their various forms of speech. The arrogance was still there, but underneath it was something new. Uncertainty. Bold words, Thelsar said. You defeated the Vorthak in your territory. You built a coalition of discontented species. You even won a battle against our enforcement fleet. Do you think this makes you our equals? No, G1 said simply. It makes us survivors. The Vorthak attacked us. We fought them, we won. But that victory revealed something you need to know, something that threatens all of us. She gestured to Dr. Hyaron, who stepped forward and activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air above them. Ancient ruins, translated text, star charts showing a region of space called the Veil. The Vorthak were not a natural species, Hyaron said. Her voice carried scientific authority. They were created, engineered as a biological weapon by an ancient civilization called the Makers. We found their records in the ruins of worlds the Vorthak destroyed. More images appeared. Massive structures, technology far beyond anything the Council had. Cities that spanned entire continents, ships that could move planets. The Makers created the Vorthak for one purpose, Hyaron continued, to serve as a defensive barrier. To hold back something they called the Silence, something that exists beyond the Veil, in the dark space your long-range sensors cannot penetrate. A Council representative stood up. It was a Kavalish, one of the insectoid species. Its voice clicked rapidly. We know of the Veil. It is a dead region of space. Nothing lives there. Nothing can live there. Nothing lives there because the Silence consumed everything, Hyaron said. The Makers' records are clear. The Silence is not a species. It is something else. Something that exists between dimensions. It feeds on energy, on matter, on life itself. The Makers fought it for thousands of years. They lost. Their last act was to create the Vorthak as a living wall to slow the Silence's advance. And the Vorthak failed, General Minho said. His voice was harsh. They were consumed from within, corrupted, turned into the monsters we fought. The Makers' weapon became a plague that destroyed 17 civilizations. But that was not their purpose. They were supposed to stop something worse. Silence fell over the chamber. Real silence this time, not the mocking quiet from before. Chancellor Thelsar's light dimmed slightly. You are saying the Silence is still there? Still active? Yes, Hyaron said. She changed the display to show recent sensor data. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected anomalies at the edge of the Veil. Gravitational distortions. Entire star systems going dark. The pattern matches what the Makers' record said would happen if the Silence broke through. When? Thelsar asked quietly. Unknown. Could be months. Could be years. But it is coming. Another council member stood. This one was Draxith, the same species as the previous High Chancellor who had mocked humanity. Why should we believe you? You come here with your coalition, with your weapons, with your demands. This could be a trick to make us lower our guard. Jiwan smiled coldly. If we wanted to trick you, we would do it in a way that benefits us. This does not benefit anyone. If the Silence breaks through, it will consume coalition space first. We are the closest to the Veil. We have the most to lose. She walked closer to the council platforms, looking up at the hundreds of alien faces. 10 years ago, I stood in this chamber and begged for help. You called us children. Too young, too primitive, too emotional. You said we needed to prove ourselves worthy. Well, we did. We faced the Vorthak alone. We evolved in 2 years what you said would take 10,000. We built technologies you thought impossible. We created an alliance of equals while you maintained an empire of subordinates. Her voice grew louder, and now we come back. Not as children begging for scraps, but as equals offering partnership. The Silence is coming. The Council cannot stop it alone. The Coalition cannot stop it alone. But together maybe we have a chance. You ask us to trust you, Thelsar said. To combine our forces with yours. To share our technology and our resources. After years of sanctions and conflict, why would we do this? General Minho stepped forward. Because the alternative is extinction. Because for all our differences, we are all alive. We all want to survive. And we all know deep down that old grudges mean nothing when facing annihilation. The chamber erupted in debate. Species argued with each other. Some wanted to reject the humans' warning. Others wanted to investigate. The chaos lasted for hours. Finally, a representative from the Lumine species spoke. She was ancient, older than most civilizations. Her voice was tired but wise. I remember stories from my youth. Stories about the time before the Council. About wars that nearly destroyed the galaxy. About the Silence that our ancestors fled from. We thought they were legends. Ghost stories to scare children. She looked at Higher-End's data. But if these records are real, if the makers truly fought the silence and failed, then our ancestors were right to be afraid. The question is not whether we trust the humans. The question is whether we value our pride more than our survival. The debate continued for 3 more days. Coalition representatives stayed in the council station, guarded but not imprisoned. During that time, Ji-won met with individual council members privately. She negotiated, compromised, and argued. On the 4th day, Chancellor Thelsar called for a vote. The chamber was packed. Every species had sent their highest representatives. "We vote today on a proposal unlike any in council history," Thelsar said, "to form a new organization. Not the council ruling over others. Not the coalition in opposition, but something new. The Galactic Union. A partnership of equals where every species, young and old, has a voice." The vote was close. Many species voted against it, too proud or too afraid of change, but enough voted in favor. The measure passed. The creation of the Galactic Union took months. Treaties had to be written. Command structures had to be agreed upon. Resources had to be allocated. But slowly, incredibly, it came together. General Minho was appointed Supreme Commander of the Union Defense Forces. It was a title that made him technically in charge of over 5,000 warships. The Krellin warriors served alongside council soldiers, human augmented units trained with species who had been their enemies months before. Engineer Soman led the Union Engineering Corps. She took the best engineers from every species and gave them one task: upgrade the AO defenses of every world in the Union. Her hybrid bioships became the standard design, with each species adding their own modifications. Dr. Hyerin became director of the Union Research Institute. Scientists from 200 worlds worked together in her facilities, combining their knowledge in ways that produced breakthroughs none could have achieved alone. And Ji-won, the diplomat who had been laughed at 10 years ago, now sat on the Union Council with equal authority to the oldest species in the galaxy. Earth had not just earned a seat at the table, it had 7 seats, the same as the founding council species. 1 year after the Union was formed, the First Fleet departed for the Veil. 3,000 warships, human Hellfire vessels, Krellin battlecruisers, Kavalish carriers, Luminite energy ships, and dozens of other designs. It was the largest military force ever assembled. General Minho commanded from his flagship. Dr. Hirin had equipped every ship with new sensors designed to detect the silence. Engineer Soman had armed them with every weapon the Union could produce. As they approached the Veil, the sensors began picking up readings. Something massive was moving in the darkness, something that made the Vorthak swarm look small. "All ships, battle stations," Minho ordered. "Whatever is in there, we face it together." Back in the Union chamber, Ji-won watched the fleet's progress on tactical displays. President Doyen stood beside her. He was older now, his hair gray from years of stress, but his eyes were still sharp. "Do you think they can win?" he asked. "I do not know," Ji-won said honestly. "But 10 years ago we faced extinction alone. Today we face it with the entire galaxy standing beside us. If we fall, at least we fall together." On the bridge of his flagship, General Minho watched as the Veil began to open. Darkness poured out, a darkness that was somehow alive. It moved like liquid shadow, reaching toward the fleet with tendrils that consumed light itself.